Good. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. That connection.
It's okay. My house here, so it might be on my end.
Okay. No worries. So is this thing ready to go, or are we waiting on anything?
I think we're ready to go. So
Great.
I just get started if that's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So my brother and I are building a multimedia search engine for the world's best independent video games. The gaming industry is actually larger than the music and film industries combined, and is expected. What is this? Why is this downloading something? Cancel. All right, and is expected to double to $320 billion in the next 5 years. So huge market potential, and actually 70% of the industry's games are made by independent game developers. I'm sure you've heard of Minecraft.
Yeah.
It actually started as an indie game, and then Microsoft bought it for $2.5 billion. So other popular games like Rocket League, PUBG, which is what Fortnite was inspired by, League of Legends, are also created by indie devs. But the average indie dev makes less than $500 of revenue per year because game discovery is broken and has been broken for over 30 years. So even like large players like Steam tried to solve the discovery problem when they created the Greenlight program, but they couldn't figure out a solution at scale. And so they shut that program down. And the way we're succeeding where they haven't been able to is that we're focused on a community first effort. Steam is a marketplace that bolted on community. We're community first, and we're not actually doing e-commerce. You don't buy the game from our site. We're a search engine. So you find the game on our site, and then you can actually buy it on Steam through the integrations we've built. So we don't compete against Steam. We don't compete against Twitch. We don't compete against YouTube. We actually complement them by increasing their views and revenue.
Okay.
So our business model is like YouTube. It's freemium. So they have an ad-supported premium subscription model. So you can use YouTube right now for free. It has ads. And if you use their YouTube Red product, you pay $9.99 a month for it. And they remove ads and you get premium original content, kind of like the Game of Thrones type content for YouTube. So that same model applies to what we're building. And we launched 8 weeks ago, back in April 2018. We already have users in 25 countries. And our projections for the end of fiscal year 2020 is to have 500,000 users, which is going to generate $2.5 million in gross revenue from advertising and subscription.
Okay. How many users in those 25 countries total?
It's about 150 right now.
Okay.
So we're in the process of scaling up. We're actually doing organic user acquisition through the Twitter brand that we built. So if you go to Twitter right now, look at ProjectMQ, we have over 35,000 indie game developers and indie game fans in that community. We've built that over the last 3 years, kind of as a proof of concept for what we wanted to deploy inside of ProjectMQ. And now that we have that community, starting next week, I'm going to start actively migrating those users from Twitter onto our platform. So we don't have to pay, $5, $10, $20 customer acquisition costs because we already have the users baked in.
Okay. So what have you said, the 150 you said?
Right, 150.
Okay. So where are those coming from internationally? Is that from Twitter or is it something else?
Right now, the international group, there's several in Europe. There's some in China, South America. I mean, about 64% of our global audience is international.
Okay.
So pretty much any continent.
Yeah.
We have users there.
And how does that make up? I don't know much about the gaming industry other than my son plays that crap all the time. Internationally versus, US based, is it heavy anywhere in particular geographically wise, or is it pretty, standard or even across the country or across the world?
Great question. So it's most dense in Europe because Europe and also in Canada, because those two countries or continents, well, you know what I mean? Those two countries, those groups have government backing to support and incentivize game development. So they provide grants and subsidies for taxes. So they give an incentive for the developers to make games. And if you look at those two areas, those have the highest concentration of original and high quality games. But the opportunity is there worldwide. If you look at our Twitter community, we have users in 116 countries. And in the last 3 years we've been building our site, we've had web traffic from 122 countries. So that gives us an indication, a strong indication that we have a global audience here.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 2.2 billion gamers worldwide. So that makes sense to me for that distribution.
Yeah. Okay. So you launched a couple of months ago, or I guess back in April or so. So it was 3 years in development.
Right.
All right. How much money has been raised or put in so far?
We've been bootstrapping this, my brother and I have. So we've put over $100,000 of our own money in. We weren't able to do a friends and family round. So we believed enough in what we were doing and this opportunity that we kept our day jobs and basically siphoned the money from our salaries to fund the R&D and the patent that we now have. A lot of the development to get us to this point. We now have a complete MVP that we self-funded completely.
What's the patent on?
The patent, we have 2 patents. We have an issued patent for the mobile user interface, a design patent, and then we have a pending utility patent on the tokenized ecosystem we're building for interacting with advertising and gameplay media.
Okay.
So we actually started doing that before we knew what blockchain was, and because the gaming industry has been using digital currency and items for over 30 years. So it makes sense for us to add those components into our platform.
Mm-hmm. So is this your full-time gig now, or or is it still a side, side hustle?
It's still very much a side hustle. It's an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
I put my brother and I each put about 30 hours a week into this outside of our full-time jobs. But we're eager to do this full-time, as soon as the opportunity arises.
Yeah. So what do you do full-time?
We're both full-stack web developers.
Okay.
For a company called MenuPad. It's based in Tampa. We basically digitize restaurant menus so that when you go in to eat, you can order off an iPad and pay off an iPad.
Yeah.
Make it a mobile point of sale.
Okay. All right. So I don't imagine any revenue yet. What's that kind of, what does that look like in terms of a monetization time frame?
So we just got our first 48 cents over the last 2 months. So, it's not enough to retire, but it's validation. There's some opportunity there. And so there's a couple of monetization options. One, we already have an ad platform integrated into our site. So as soon as we get those 35,000 users from Twitter to the site, we're automatically going to start generating revenue.
Okay.
The second is the premium content and features that we're still developing. And that's what we'll charge our users about $10 a month from. There's some industry research on Business Insider says about 7% of millennials in our target demographic will pay about $10 a month. So that's $120 yearly, and we're offering an annual subscription at $60, so they get it 50% off. And then the third is affiliate revenue. So the 48 cents actually comes from Penguin. They're the eBay of video games, and we recently signed a partnership with them that for every indie game we refer to them, they're giving us 5% of net profits per game in perpetuity. So the 48 cents is that first bit of that revenue starting to come in.
Okay. Hey, you got to start somewhere. 48 cents is more than some of the other businesses I've been involved with. So.
you got to appreciate the small wins, right? It's a journey.
Right. That's right. So what's the biggest threat to what you guys are doing?
I would say time.
Okay.
And if we were funded day one, it would have taken us 18 months to build what's taken us 5 years to do.
Yeah.
Because we have to go and, work at our day jobs because we have to pay the bills. So in that 5 years, we've seen, people try to attempt to do what we're doing and watch. They weren't able to do it because they didn't take the solution that we have. But, people say there's no original idea, and then you hear of companies being ripped off all the time. The longer we wait to do this, the more opportunity we give for someone else to kind of come into this space. Also, my concern is if there isn't a solution soon, you're going to see the middle section of the gaming industry collapse on itself because the average indie dev only makes $500 of revenue a year. That's not sustainable long term as more and more games, there's a new game launching every 20 seconds.
So, you got the unicorns like your Minecrafts and Fortnites and Clash of Clans, whatever it is, all that kind of stuff. A lot of these are kind of bring me up to speed or educate me on what's mobile developed games versus streaming games, or whatever. What does this platform focus on?
Our focus is all genres and all platforms, but only indie games. So if your kids want to play a horror game on their mobile devices, they would go to our site and find the best indie games from around the world in the horror genre on mobile. If they wanted to play a racing game on Xbox, they would go to our site, find the best indie games from around the world in the racing genre on Xbox.
Okay.
And that's how we complement Twitch and YouTube, because they do have indie games, but they're more focused on live streaming and the esports, because they're publicly traded companies, right? They have to focus on the hits. What we're doing is building the ramp up for the next Minecraft to discover it before it gets that next level.
Okay. So it's ad and subscription based in terms of monetization. Is there any other benefit or, I guess, incentive for an indie platform or an indie game to subscribe to your platform to get their game out?
So we're also doing mentoring. A part of what we do is kind of a small scale incubator.
Yeah.
And the idea is to get indie games to a point with a combination of our mentoring and the audience of global gamers that we've built, that they can either self-publish via platforms like Kickstarter or go sign a publisher, right? A publishing deal.
Yeah. All right. So it's just you and your brother that are doing this. Anyone else involved? I mean, have you guys done all the development yourself, or have you outsourced it anywhere?
We're doing all the development in-house. We actually have a graphic designer in Los Angeles. His name's Avik Sagoyan. He's worked on 3 Call of Duty games in the past, but because we're not funded, we can't afford to bring him on full time. So he's kind of a contractor as needed basis.
Okay. So you're trying to raise what, $500K for a convertible note type of deal?
Right. $500K is a convertible note. I'd have 8% interest with a 20% discount, 18-month term. I'm actually next week going to be submitting our grant application to the National Science Foundation. It's a partnership with James Madison University. They've already signed a letter of intent committing 2 of their AI professors for our research. If that grant is approved, we'll get up to $1.5 million in non-dilutive funding over the next 36 months.
Okay.
Which gives us some additional patent opportunities and reduces dilution for our seed investors.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that. I read briefly the Georgia Tech reference and the Richard Branson reference. What's that all about?
So we've been doing a number of startup competitions over the last 3 years, trying to find, investors who understand the space and build our understanding of how to build a scalable startup. And those are just 2 of those. So Richard Branson has what he calls the Extreme Tech Challenge. The semifinals are at CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas every year. Yeah. We were a top non-finalist there. Unfortunately, we weren't, a finalist to pitch, but we're just under that next level. And then Georgia Tech has its own incubator called the Advanced Technology Development Center. And they have a satellite campus in Savannah, which is where Malcolm lives. And he was one of the startups selected there and actually won the pitch competition for that incubator accelerator in Savannah.
Okay. So this first round, call it before any grant money or anything like that would be awarded, the $500K, is that so you guys can go full time, or is there other plans for where that money would be allocated?
It's so we can go full time. So just a quick breakdown. Malcolm and I are looking to take like a 25-30% salary cut in order to do this full time. And so those funds, the $500K is 18 months of runway. It will basically pay our living expenses, rent, groceries and stuff, so we can focus on this. There's also $100,000 for PR and marketing, and about another $100,000 for technology infrastructure. So bandwidth, storage, etc., for the cloud. And then $50,000 of that we set aside as a buffer for emergency expenses.
Okay.
We basically, both of us would be $75,000 a year a piece for 18 months. And the rest is operational expenses.
Yeah. Okay. How how many other people have you spoken to about this opportunity? I know you mentioned you weren't able to do the friends and family round, but are there other, I guess, prospects in the mix?
Yes, so I'm also in another accelerator here in Tampa. It's called the Tampa Bay Wave. It's a tech diversity accelerator. That's a partnership with the Nielsen Foundation. Mm-hmm. And it's a 90-day program. Next month, they're going to be introducing us and having us pitch a number of venture capital firms in Florida. And we have a demo day in August. So our goal is to close our seed round here in the next 60 days. We also have a lead investor out of Silicon Valley. Her name is Diane Eisner. She's the head of growth at Waze. We're a startup in her portfolio for the Neighborhood Start Fund. She co-founded that with Lupe Fiasco to invest in minorities from underserved communities. So they've committed $25,000. It's that standard ticket size. Mm-hmm. They're a micro fund. And they're going to be making introductions for us to other Silicon Valley investors this summer.
So 25 of the 500.
25 so far of the 500.
Okay.
And then they're going to be introducing us to other investors in Silicon Valley. And then we have the accelerator here in Tampa making introductions too.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you're just north of me. I'm in Sarasota. So
okay.
I
live in Bradenton. I'm on State Road 64.
Okay.
Yeah, I work. My day job is in Tampa.
All right. Yeah, we just moved from Anna Maria. So we
had to get
there. Yeah, had to get further south. I don't have a helicopter, so the amount of time we were traveling with this traffic was nuts. Back and forth to Sarasota. So, well, great. I tell you what, let me put some thought behind it. As I said, I don't know much about the gaming industry other than I know it's huge. So I'm intrigued by it. I want to do a little bit of research on it a little bit more. I'm not sure how we're supposed to communicate afterwards over the if it needs to be over pitch or whatever. I can talk maybe to Matt about that or something. But as far as getting in contact, if there's questions and everything, but I appreciate the time. It's definitely intriguing. It's big market there. When there's dollars made, the big guys come out. So I don't know how. I mean, you referenced the indie side making $500 a game on average and stuff. It's everyone wants to be that next big thing, but the platform seems intriguing, especially if there's not a lot of competition out there. I mean, you don't want to compete with YouTube. You don't want to compete with Twitch. I get that. Just like you don't want to compete with Facebook and Twitter. So if you have something that's that's unique, that's more integrating of them rather than competing with them, I think that provides some value, especially with the IP around it. It seems like you got as well. So I think you're on the right track, definitely by protecting that and getting in the right circles, especially out there in Rainbow Land, Silicon Valley. So let me put some research and thought behind it, and questions and all that kind of stuff that kind of come up. I'll figure out a way to get in contact with you. If you're up in Bradenton, that's a quick skip. If we wanted to ever get together and discuss further.
Okay. Well, and one more thing before we go. First, I appreciate your time. I know it's Sunday and everybody has time with their families. We want to get back to them.
Sure.
But the larger opportunity for us here is that if we can solve game discovery for indie games, that's just the proof of concept. We can apply that same technology to indie music and indie film, mm-hmm. Which also desperately need discovery fix for them. Mm-hmm. So, that's an opportunity that might be valuable to a Spotify or a SoundCloud. Or once we have all of that, we're kind of a portal for the newest content from indie producers across types of media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I didn't think about it from that front, even though I was in that industry briefly on the music side, independent, artists and stuff like that. But it was all YouTube driven and social media driven, right. And then a couple other sites that are no longer in existence now. But that definitely is a market opportunity right there for you. So great. Well, yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I'll take a look at some research here and figure out kind of if I'm fit for something like this, I don't know, as I said a couple of times, I'm not well versed in the gaming industry. Not to say that I haven't thrown money at things that I have no idea what it's about. It's more just, throwing the dice, if you will. So let me put some thought to it and go from there.
Okay. Well, I have several of the documents, from signed partners and clients and strategic other individuals if you need to see those. Yeah. But I thank you again for your time. This was an awesome conversation. Sure. And I look forward to continuing.
Sounds great. Good luck with everything. Right, talk to you later. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.